Alberta is turning to Ottawa for help in combating a crushing fourth wave of infections. The province is looking for emergency relief to support its overwhelmed healthcare system. The CBC's Aaron Collins is on the story, and he joins us now live from Calgary. So, Aaron, just how dire is the situation in Alberta?
Well, it's the perfect word for it, Andrew. It's dire. The system here close to being overwhelmed as that fourth wave hammers Alberta again today. And I think really the numbers paint the picture here very well. Nearly 90% of ICU beds inhabited at this point across the province, and that's, you have to remember, surge capacity beds. So normally we have far fewer than the number that are already full operating in the province. Add to that, more than 200 of the people in those beds have COVID-19. About 1,000 Albertans in hospital with COVID-19. More than 20,000 active cases across the province, by far the most of any province in the country. And that's what's led provincial officials to reach out first to their provincial counterparts for help. And then yesterday we're hearing that the province has reached out to the federal government looking for help to airlift ICU patients out of the province and to bring more ICU staff into the province. Now, some political watchers have pointed out that the timing of that request is a little bit interesting. Have a listen.
Had he planned a letter requesting federal help for COVID the day after the election? Like, the timing of this looks like it was set and established, because again, one of Kenney's strengths is planning ahead.
So you can hear a little bit about it there, and we'll get a little more into the politics of this situation. But obviously some questions about if it was necessary to ask for federal help. We've been in this wave for a few days. Why did the province wait until after the federal election to make that request? There have been some suggestions that perhaps the Premier was laying low a little bit to try to help Aaron O'Toole in his electoral efforts, because you know, the situation here in Alberta, former Conservative cabinet member Jason Kenney maybe being a bit of a drag on Aaron O'Toole.
That sure doesn't help the healthcare staff or the people who are very sick in the hospitals. There is a huge political impact, Aaron, to all of this. How is Premier Jason Kenney coping with that?
Yeah, there's no way to understate this. The Premier is fighting for his political life, and he's being attacked from both sides, essentially. The progressives, the official opposition, have been hammering his handling of this pandemic for a long time now, but as well feeling the heat from inside his own party. The UCP MLAs and even members of the UCP's board now suggesting that perhaps a leadership review is needed sooner rather than later. Now, these questions were put to the Premier yesterday when he spoke to the province. He was asked, you know, does he feel like he's under pressure, and is that why he replaced his health minister yesterday? Here's what the Premier had to say.
We are focused on one thing, which is getting through this fourth wave and preparing for whatever else COVID may have in store for us in the future, not on politics.
So focused on COVID and not on politics. We'll see. There's a caucus meeting here in Calgary today where MLAs are going to be sort of airing their views on the future of the Premier and the future direction of this government. We'll see what happens today. Certainly some interesting developments in politics, and of course with the pandemic, very closely connected to that here in the province.
Can I ask you, Aaron, just not to get too in the weeds of how this caucus meeting could go or what could happen, but it is interesting. Is there a system in place with the UCP government where the caucus could get together and somehow say, Premier, you got to go and vote, or you know, do you have any of those kind of details?
Yeah, so there's a few ways that this could go, and we're not going to know how that goes until it goes. But what we have heard is that there is sort of a scheduled leadership review. Now, that's not till the fall of 2022, and the pressure, of course, building that's too long, and members of the UCP want something to happen a little quicker than that. So you've got the United Conservative Party's board, and we heard from a member of that board saying that they're pushing to have something done much quicker. Jason Kenney has quite good control. His his supporters are in control of that board. So there'd have to be an election inside the party structure in order to change that. What's happening today is that caucus is gathering to see, and of course the premier is going to be gauging whether he still has the support of his own party. A bunch of things could happen out of today. We saw in previous waves that several MLAs signed a letter saying that they, didn't really support the premier's actions. Could we see that again? Could we see a breakaway faction? The premier's already kicked 2 members of his caucus out for publicly criticizing him. Do we see a further schism? You have to remember, Andrew, that this party, this united Conservative Party, is really a mashup of 2 very disparate parties, the Progressive Conservatives and the Wildrose Party. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of ways that this could pan out. We're just going to have to wait and see.
And Aaron, just quickly again, I mean, he has criticism from kind of the rural UCP members and urban ones, right? Maybe the urban ones think that the restrictions and the vaccine passport has been too late. There hasn't been enough. People in rural areas say it goes too far. So it's almost like he's facing criticism from different perspectives of this whole debate.
It's almost as though there's nothing really uniting this united Conservative Party. It seems like this is 2 separate parties that were smashed together, and that's exactly what it was. The divisions have been there for over a decade, and they're showing the fissures are showing again. You're absolutely right, Andrew. We heard from an MLA here in Calgary that was saying he was appalled that the premier hadn't acted more quickly to enact restrictions as this 4th wave picked up steam. He was on vacation. He was asked where he was. There's of course some rumors that he might have been on a European vacation. He refused to answer that question yesterday. But we were talking about inside the UCP board, and the member that was speaking out yesterday saying that the premier needs to go. Well, he's not saying that the premier needs to go because he took too long to act. This is a rural member of the United Conservative Party who's saying he shouldn't have acted at all. They don't like the restrictions. They don't like him bringing these kinds of heavy-handed restrictions in, and that's things like vaccine passports are things that the premier had said that he would not do, and now he's flip-flopping on that, and so he's alienated one side of his party by reversing course and bringing restrictions in, and he's alienated the more urban side of his party by waiting too long to address the growing sort of case numbers that we saw here in late August.
Well, there is so much to watch for, but certainly interesting, challenging times in Alberta, Aaron, though, but appreciate your
Never
time.
boring.
Never boring. The CBC's Aaron Collins, live in Calgary.